Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show and happy Friday. Hope you're hunkering down in anticipation of the big storm. If you are anywhere on the right half of the country, physical right. We have so much goodness in store for you today before the weekend. But first, Don Lemon taunting the Department of Justice to come after him again. Oh, he's such a tough guy after a federal magistrate judge refused to sign off on criminal charges against him for his role in last weekend's church protest, in quotes, in Minnesota. Lemon is loving every minute of this. He's never had so much attention because no one cares about him. Last night, likening himself to Jimmy Kimmel.
Look, I stand proud and I stand tall. This is not a victory lap for me because it's not over. They're going to try again and they're going to try again. And guess what? Here I am. Keep trying. That's not going to stop me from being a journalist. You're not going to diminish my voice. Go ahead. Make me into the new Jimmy Kimmel if you want. Just do it. Because I'm not going anywhere and I'm going to believe the same things, whether you want to, whatever.
Yes, please do it. And the person who could do it is with me now. She is Harmeet Dhillon. She is the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the DOJ. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. From Amazon MGM Studios comes Melania. Every detail, every decision, every stitch intentional. This new film takes you inside the 20 days leading up to the 2025 presidential inauguration through the eyes of the First Lady herself. From fittings to critical meetings to private moments, witness the precision behind her return to one of the world's most powerful roles. Melania. Only in theaters, January 30th. Harmeet, great to see you again. So, are we going to do it?
Well, we are going to do it because that's what is required for justice here. And from Sunday, when I first saw the video that Don Lemon himself put out about his conduct that day, it was clear to me that we had the predicates for pursuing FACE Act and conspiracy. We did our homework, sent prosecutors there to the ground, took affidavits, took evidence. They buttressed the case that we could witness from Lemon's own testimony and statements and admissions against interest in his own videos. And we have aggressively and very rapidly sought legal process. Now, I will say it's been a little frustrating because for 48 hours between the time that we sought these arrest warrants and the time that we were able to make arrests and say what the judge did in refusing to sign off on Lemon's, it had to stay silent. We have certain protocols here at the Department of Justice, but he is not out of legal jeopardy, and he has lawyered up. He has a prominent lawyer, and we're going to pursue this to the ends of the earth.
Good. So it's not over. He's not out of the woods just because this one magistrate judge decided not to sign off on the warrant. This magistrate judge, we now know, is married to somebody who works for Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota. The judge's name is Douglas Micko, M-I-C-K-O, the magistrate judge who refused to sign the warrant. And we found out that his wife, Caitlin Micko, who works for Keith Ellison in the AG's office, recently reposted first a happy holidays photo of her with the judge, so that's why we know they're married. But separately on LinkedIn, Harmeet, this woman, okay, again, she's married to the judge who denied the warrant. She recently loved this message from the Solicitor General in AG Ellison's office. Quote, "I'm proud to help AG Ellison and the mayors protect the equal sovereignty of Minnesota and the safety of our residents by suing ICE, Homeland Security, today." So she's liking the lawsuit against ICE. She's clearly anti-ICE. And this is the magistrate judge's wife.
Yes.
Should he have recused himself from this?
So let me add, there's a couple of additional elements, which is Keith Ellison ignorantly went out there and said that the FACE Act doesn't apply to attacks on houses of worship, which, as you know, Megyn, it obviously does. It's right there in the statute, and I've actually used it in court already. This is the second time the United States Department of Justice has gone into court to use the FACE Act with respect to houses of worship. So He's blatantly wrong, and that's her boss. And it's a conflict of interest, in my opinion. And, he absolutely has fallen short of the standards here. And there's more that I can say about the magistrate. I don't even want to say judge, because magistrate is a inferior officer, not an Article III judge. The back and forth with us is something else. But this magistrate clearly exhibited bias, I think, in his rulings, and they're very disappointing. And so there are more chapters to come in this dispute, for sure.
So normally you could bring it before a grand jury, right, to get an indictment. Can you go, Harmeet, to a different magistrate?
I don't want to telegraph exactly what we're going to do next in court, but there are next moves in court in multiple directions, up and sideways and otherwise. But you have to understand that this was a holiday weekend. And unfortunately, grand juries don't run every day of the week. I know there's a lot of ignorant commentary out there on social media about this. They simply don't know. The next sitting of the grand jury in Minnesota in Minneapolis is next week. And so, that's an option. There are other options. So I will just leave it at that. But that the Attorney General herself was there on the ground and managing this process with my principal deputy, a brilliant young lawyer. And so, we are not giving up the fight here at all. And in fact, we only identified rapidly, I think, a handful of people who were in this mob. I intend to go after every single one of them. None of the people who invaded this house of God and harassed and frightened children and families is going to go unpunished.
Great. That's great news. So you're going after all of them. It's just you haven't identified every single person yet, but the ones you've identified, the process is happening.
Well, that's right. I mean, and the other thing is, look, people are doing their social media identifications. I'm looking at those and I'm forwarding them to the investigative team. And we have to do our due diligence. We don't want to be out there. I mean, I'm a longtime civil rights lawyer from the against the government side. And so I have tremendous respect for the rights of the individual. So we're doing our due diligence. That's required by justice. I'm sure people out there would agree that they would not want to be wrongfully arrested or otherwise misidentified. And so we're doing our homework. But a lot of these people self-identified on social media, including the 3 who were arrested. They were, posting their own commentary out there repeatedly, as was Don Lemon's associates and others. So eventually we will expect to get all of these people. And, then we're going to have more questions about how this was organized, who organized it, who funded it, and what else is being done by this group of people invading churches. And why we moved so quickly, Megyn, is as a person of faith, it just outrages me to see this happening. And I didn't want churchgoers to feel that if they went to church in Minneapolis, St. Paul, this coming Sunday, or the synagogue, or any house of worship, that they might face the same kind of mob harassment. It's just not, it's off limits in America. And so I hope this gives assurances. The 3 arrests they're not low-level people. One of them is an elected official school board member. One of them is a serial free-range, domestic terrorist, in my opinion, terrorizing people in multiple jurisdictions. And one is a paid
Kelly
organizer who is a lawyer who had access to statute books and should have known better about the FACE Act. And, we were trying to arrest them for 48 hours, had eyes on them. It wasn't easy. And everyone who is in the food chain of helping us get the information needed didn't necessarily cooperate quickly, but we got it done very quickly.
There was a report yesterday on the one arrest of Chantel Allen. She's the one who's on the school board, that she had allegedly rented out 3 separate hotel rooms and that the hotel manager helped to get her down to the lobby to be arrested. Is that true?
I'm not going to comment on the exact circumstances, but the privilege that some of these folks exhibit can get tiresome to the general public. And hotels don't want fugitives in their premises for obvious reasons. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Back to Don Lemon for a second. He doubled down on the inanity in the following comment. I have got to run this by you. You may have heard it. Here it is, Sat. 5 last night.
It's not about justice. You know how I know it's not about justice? Because I have the best attorney in the country, I believe, to deal with this, who takes on this administration without fear at all. And this attorney has worked with some of the worst accused criminals in history. And even those people, just like Donald Trump, who is a 34-time convicted felon, are always allowed usually to self-report. In these situations, why you see the activists in Minneapolis or Minnesota, why you see a perp walk, which they were supposed to get rid of that, right? Because they said they were unconstitutional. Why you see that? Because they want those images out there. They want to embarrass people. Same situation. If they had come here to do that, they wouldn't let me self-report. And so when I asked counsel and people, well, why is this happening? And one person who I respect the most, this doesn't come from my counsel, who I really respect, said, because they're giving you the N-word treatment.
Okay.
Thoughts on that, Harmeet?
I mean, who thinks Don Lemon is a victim? Who thinks that we're giving him the N-word treatment? That's really offensive to me as a person who grew up in the Deep South and saw the Klan in my town when I was growing up. Like Don Lemon living in the Hamptons or whatever, you are not ever being subjected to that kind of treatment. That's absurd. Secondly, thank you for, continuing to talk and reveal attorney-client privilege communications. That's super helpful. I really appreciate it. And Abby Lowell, his lawyer, had nothing to do with the magistrate judge refusing to sign off on arresting Don Lemon. So you have to understand that we at the Department of Justice these days, in the most aggressive and important fights that we're facing, we're kind of outmanned 2 against 1. He didn't even need a lawyer. The magistrate judge was kind of standing in as judge and jury. His role, by the way, is a gatekeeper. Is there probable cause? His role is not the jury's role, and his role is not to give commentary or opinion on it. And so I do think that the magistrate judge was out of line. And so we will see.
Yeah.
We will see. There are many more moves to be had here. And Don Lemon keeps running his mouth, and I really appreciate it.
It's so unusual for a magistrate to not sign off on there being probable cause and issue the warrant. I mean, every lawyer that we've talked to, and that we have a lot of them in our MK Media network, former prosecutors, former defense and current defense attorneys saying this is unheard of virtually. I mean, unless there's absolutely no case. And there is obviously probable cause for both FACE Act and the conspiracy against rights charges for Lemon. So, I mean, was it nakedly partisan, Harmeet? I know you're limited somewhat in what you want to say, but was it obviously a partisan thing?
Well, let me state with regard to the FACE Act, first of all, like Attorney General Keith Ellison, many lawyers and even apparently now magistrates and judges are entirely ignorant of the second half of the FACE Act, which is protecting houses of worship. Why is that? Because all they've ever heard of is Obama and Biden, DOJ going after pro-life protesters, using that law, praying outside abortion clinics, an abuse of the FACE Act. Those are the headlines. And frankly, on the right, Republican attorneys general and prosecutors didn't bring these claims. That's also a fail. Okay, so now we're using it the way it's supposed to have been used. And so to a degree, they're ignorant. On the Klan Act, it is a venerable statute with a long and storied and very important history. I really respect this law. It is one of our oldest, perhaps the oldest civil rights law that I am charged with administering here at the United States Department of Justice. And it dates back to an era where local law enforcement and state law enforcement was weaponized against people of color in this country after the emancipation of the slaves. And so, this is exactly the purpose for which it was intended to be used. Conspiracy to violate somebody else's civil rights. Is there any more fundamental civil right, Megyn, than the right to pray to God peacefully in a house of worship? It is the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. It is the basis on which this country was founded. And so I look forward to getting convictions under both of these statutes eventually
Yes.
against all the people charged.
let me read you what Matt Murphy said to us. He's part of our MK True Crime Network, and he's a lifetime prosecutor out in Orange County. And he said the following. He said, in 26 years as a prosecutor, I never saw a judge actually reject an arrest warrant. This will be an Obama, Biden, Clinton appointee. This is before we knew. Two-tier justice activist judge, guaranteed. And then he said, terrifying children like this is ghoulish. It's clearly a federal crime. The guy filmed himself in the parking lot, and he said, these are, well, sanctimonious lefty blank holes. I think you would agree with all of that. Do we know, because you point out, like, the magistrate is not like a nominated judge by a sitting president. So was it a Democrat who chose this magistrate judge and put him on their bench?
So let me explain to your audience how magistrate judges work. I've gone before many of them, and often we lawyers who are looking for a speedy resolution of our cases, we stipulate to magistrates actually trying cases where there's a bench trial situation. So I respect the role of the magistrate judge, but the magistrate judge is an employee of the federal court. They have 10-year appointments. They are selected by the district court Article 3 judges. So the life tenured judges in the district court. They put out a posting. People apply for the job. They go through an interview process. They get selected. So they're hired by the court. So if you have a certain bias in who gets appointed to the court because of the notorious blue slip process, who can get through the archaic and frankly needs to go blue slip process in 2026, then you're going to have a biased selection panel, and you're going to have an outcome of this type of person. And even so, I don't presume any person who administers justice is biased. I deeply respect judges, and I think many of them try to do the right thing, no matter whether they're Democrat or Republican. I've gotten good outcomes from Democrat-appointed judges, particularly in constitutional issues. So, but when you have a conflict of interest issue, which emerged after this ruling, that's a concern. Every person, every officer of the court, including myself, I've recused myself from cases here at the Department of Justice where I have a bias or a perceived bias. It's actually not just a bias. It is avoiding the appearance of impropriety. And where your wife works for a guy who has prejudged the outcome of the issue, the FACE Act doesn't apply, ICE is bad, we're going to get them, we're going to sue them, which, by the way, they've lost now at the 8th Circuit. We obtained an administrative stay from the 8th Circuit against that silly lawsuit that they filed to enjoin and endanger ICE officers. That's a significant conflict. And so I see some commentary out there. Why is the DOJ so dumb? Why did you present your arrest warrants to this judge? We do not judge shop. I don't know if the other side may do that. That's actually illegal and unethical. We cannot judge shop. We do not judge shop. This was the randomly assigned magistrate. I don't know if we would have gotten a different outcome from another, but this one should have recused himself, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But that's why you have that. Now, typically, you go up the food chain. You don't like the outcome of the magistrate judge, you get a chance to ask a district court judge. And so I'll just leave it at that. And then there are other moves we can make. We are literally not even a week away from this invasion of this church occurring. These arrests are rapid within the scope of how the DOJ normally operates, I can assure you. And so, there will be more to come in this case. I hope to identify, with the help of the public, video evidence and other data that we have at our disposal, which the FBI is working on, every single person who came uninvited into that house of God and get them.
How soon do you think we'll see more arrests?
Arrest warrants have to be signed off, by this process. So it hopefully will be days, but I can't give any promises.
Yep. Yeah, we're somewhat beholden to the judiciary.
We're totally beholden to them.
Can I ask you about some elements on the FACE Act? So to prove a violation under the FACE Act, you have to prove that by force, threats, or physical obstruction, they've interfered with religious observance. And Dave Ehrenberg, who we love, he's former Palm Beach County attorney. He's a Democrat. He says he's a centrist. But he said on the show the other day in a debate with Mike Davis that he doesn't think you guys are going to pass the force, threats, or physical obstruction piece of the act because he's looked at the case law and said, in his interpretation, typically force or physical obstruction would suggest preventing exit from the church. Like in the abortion clinic cases, it was people blocking women from trying to get into the clinic. And I took issue with that, Harmeet, because there was a famous case just over the past couple of years under the Biden DOJ where they went after abortion. It was an abortion clinic. There was actually two people who went after one of these pregnancy counseling centers with negative spray paint on the outside of it. And it said something like, this isn't exact, but it was something to the effect of either you'll support abortion or you're going to get it. You know, it was a threatening kind of spray paint, but there was no blocking of anything, but it was a threat. So it might have been considered, quote, threatening. You tell me whether those people were physically obstructing or using force. I don't know. But in that church, the behavior was threatening, Harmeet. I just don't think there's any argument that they were not threatening the people, saying hands up, don't shoot. Kids don't know what that means.
Right.
They don't know it's a reference to Ferguson. They hear hands up and they hear people talking about shooting. They have the aggressive William Kelly shouting in their faces with, explicit like anger and challenges and insults. They have kids running out of the church, getting in the van, slamming the doors to get away from people screaming in their faces. They have kids cowering. They have kids crying. You tell me how you make the force threats or physical obstruction piece of the statute.
Okay, absolutely. So first of all, we've had the FACE Act since 1994. There have been many prosecutions under the FACE Act, almost all of them against pro-life protesters or silent objectors. And you can't just look at the words of the statute. You have to look at how the courts have interpreted it and what convictions have been had and upheld on appeal. And so, for example, there have been numerous convictions by the Biden DOJ. I think I can count of 3 cases off the top of my head where people were convicted for silently praying outside an abortion clinic, not chaining themselves to the doors or blocking the entrance, and certainly not going inside and creating a ruckus and shouting at people on an operating table. That's not the standard. The case you mentioned is Oropesa versus United States, which I personally argued and defended the conviction of in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals just 3 or 4 months ago. And I went into court and defended the Klan Act application to this particular fact pattern. And some people who were charged with FACE Act violations in that case, some of the conspirators pled guilty. And so you're correct. This was spray painting. This was aggressive threats, kind of violent threats. And in response to those threats, each of these clinics, which were religiously based clinics, had to hire additional security. They had to not allow walk-ins to their clinics. So they weren't able to serve some women in crisis. They required appointments only. They had to, the workers there were in fear. Some people called out sick because they were afraid. And this organization was called Jane's Revenge. It's kind of a, I would call it quasi-terrorist organization designed to terrorize people of faith. And this was in the wake of the Dobbs decision. So when you look at the case law, people have been convicted under the FACE Act for much, much less than exactly what happened here. But let's look at the words of the protesters themselves. First of all, William Kelly shouted racially charged language within this church and also outside the church. He made it clear that the white and Christian nature of these people was part of the motivation of harassing them. Don Lemon himself stated before and after that the purpose of this so-called protest obstruction was to put people in fear and make them uncomfortable and make them traumatize them. And then we have photographs of children crying and their mothers hugging them and moms ushering children out the back and strong Christian men standing up to defend their families. That is in response to putting them in fear. And you're absolutely correct. You're using the word shoot and hands up in a house of God. You're shouting out and obstructing the purpose for which people are there. If this isn't a violation of the FACE Act, I don't know what is. And I think the law is very clear. We all feel strongly about it. I have career prosecutors, nonpartisan prosecutors working on this case. And by the time we gathered this video evidence and interviewed some witnesses on Sunday and Monday, we had no question that this is a violation of both the FACE Act and, for the organizers and people who planned it, the Klan Act as well.
Abby Lowell, who we've discussed is representing Lemon, put out a statement that reads as follows in part: the magistrate's reported actions denying the probable cause existed for the warrant confirm the nature of Don's First Amendment protected work. It was no different than what he has done for more than 30 years, reporting and covering newsworthy events. What's your response to that, Harmeet, the First Amendment argument being made by Abby Lowell and Lemon?
So first of all, let me step back for a second. I am a First Amendment activist and lawyer for more than 3 decades. I have litigated numerous First Amendment cases, including to the United States Supreme Court, and won many on behalf of journalists. I usually represent the journalists in my private practice. I've been a journalist. I have deep respect for the First Amendment. I've even been on the board of the American Civil Liberties Union many years ago after the Patriot Act. So no one cares about the First Amendment more than I do. And we checked our boxes and did our homework before we applied for this arrest warrant. Now, Abby Lowell, I respect him as a lawyer. He's a successful and smart lawyer. He's talking out of his, he's talking out of, he's fabricating. I'm trying to be
his ear.
I'm trying to be
out of his ear.
I'm trying to be decorous here as a DOJ official. So he is making things up. There is no basis for him to say that the magistrate judge's decision is just because Don Lemon was a so-called journalist. That is, I think, inaccurate, and it is a fantasy. Now, ultimately, at trial, that would be a defense I would expect Abby Lowell or whoever Don Lemon gets at that point, because people change lawyers sometimes, who knows what happens. But whoever the lawyer is, I expect them to make a journalism argument. And there were a couple of other journalists. William Kelly is described as a journalist. In fact, he is thanked by the first person arrested, that 501c3, I'm forgetting her name.
Nakima Armstrong.
Nakima Armstrong tagged and thanked him as an embedded journalist. Does anyone think that guy's a journalist? I don't think he's a journalist, but he was thanked as a journalist, and he has a blog or some kind of following, and that he shouts into the camera. Not a journalist, sorry. When you are, and by the way, let me also add, you can be a journalist, but when a journalist is also committing a crime, it's black letter law that they're not cloaked from prosecution, because it's not like a magic invisibility cloak from Harry Potter where you can put it on and not be a criminal because you're a journalist. That's not how it works. Journalists can and have been convicted of crimes in our country where they break the law. And let me give you some examples of the prior administration going after journalists. So January 6th, there was a Blaze reporter who was in the crowd, who was prosecuted and convicted in the January 6th situation.
Steve Baker.
Correct. I have represented Project Veritas and the journalists at Project Veritas who did not publish Ashley Biden's diary, and yet they had to expend hundreds of thousands of dollars defending the First Amendment in the Southern District of New York, where the weaponized DOJ went after
and
them.
Harmeet, we had James O'Keefe on our show after that happened. They raided James O'Keefe's home at 5 a.m. with the New York Times. Ooh, suddenly just somehow aware of it simultaneously. They tried to humiliate him. And there was, as far as I know, there's been no FBI raid at Don Lemon's home yet. But so this is recent history where Biden's DOJ went after a journalist for not even publishing a story, not actually doing what Don Lemon did, which was join the mob committing the crime.
Not just James, but 2 other journalists employed by Project Veritas were all subjected to this organized theater. And think about it. That was the flimsiest case I ever saw. It's really, truly outrageous abuse of power by the prior administration. And yet they had no problem getting search warrants. And they had no problem then forcing and dragging Project Veritas and its lawyers, I was one of the lawyers, full disclosure, through the mud and trying to pierce and invade attorney-client privilege, as well as the First Amendment. And there have been other cases. Let me give you a state court example. Kamala Harris did the one and only prosecution of any journalist in California history under California's wiretapping statute, because David Daleiden, again, my client, was an undercover journalist who exposed Planned Parenthood and National Abortion Federation's lucrative fetal part trafficking business. He audio taped and videotaped them in public places, in restaurants, in bars, in hotel lobbies, clearly not covered by the wiretapping statute. The process is the punishment on the left. So you will notice that although we had, choreographed arrests here, did it carefully so that no one got hurt, we didn't have Fox News or, News Nation or Newsmax over there or any other journalism outlet with cameras videotaping that. That's not appropriate. We didn't do that. I know there's some folks on my side who would love to see, quote unquote, that kind of theater, but most importantly, we want our officers who are making these arrests to be safe, and we want the public to be safe. And I do not think that's an appropriate behavior by the Department of Justice, yet they did that repeatedly. They did that to Roger Stone. They did that to so many others. They did that to Steve Bannon. So I learned as a small child, two wrongs don't make a right. So we are going to go about our business here at the DOJ methodically, carefully. The Attorney General is a very serious person. She was an Attorney General before in Florida, and she has the utmost respect for judges and for equal protection and due process. And that's how we're going to operate here. But we're going to operate with aggressiveness and zeal. And I think in Minnesota, we're absolutely demonstrating that. And this is just a tiny sliver of what's going on in that corrupt jurisdiction. We are going after, the same week, last week, we went after the governor and the mayor there, Jacob Frey, and others. And so we intend to hold these people accountable. And I think we're just scratching the surface of what's happening here. But people need to have some patience. You know, Megyn, as an attorney yourself, that this isn't Law and Order where everything gets wrapped up nicely from beginning to end in 46 minutes with commercial breaks. That's just not how it works. And we want prosecutions that stick, and people need to understand sometimes we're facing a biased process, and that's what's happening to us so far. But we don't let it rest. That's why we have appeals courts. That's why we have the Supreme Court, and we're 100% dedicated to holding every single person in this instance and many others. I mean, I have several other FACE Act cases and investigations open with respect to synagogues. We've obtained convictions in several cases of attacks on churches in the last 9 months under my civil rights division, because we take that very seriously.
I didn't know that. That's actually good news. I've watched it. I mean, I've watched some of these cases play out. I was just there at the Supreme Court a week and a half ago watching your deputy out there arguing the case on whether bans against boys and girls sports were appropriate and constitutional. I think it's going to go your way. But the Trump administration Trump passes an executive order or he gets behind a state law in his rhetoric that's doing the right thing. And then you get a legal challenge. And then bit by bit, it works its way up through the Supreme Court and you guys get in there and argue it. And you're amassing a very solid win record. You can't win them all, but you're amassing a very solid win record. It doesn't happen in 42 minutes without commercial breaks. Sadly, that's not how real life works when it comes to the law. I admire you, and I'm really grateful for you to be on, Harmeet. Thank you. Good luck with it, and we'll stay in touch.
Thanks for having us, Megyn. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we are so lucky to have her. My God, you guys, we don't know how lucky we are to have her. She's been in the trenches for years now, working on these cases. Harmeet always took on like noble defendants who were being harassed by people like the Biden administration, like the James O'Keefe case, just to take one. There was no glory in that, right? It's not like she knew she was going to get big money out of defending James O'Keefe, but she was like, screw this harassing government. And now to have her on the other side, to be able to exercise the appropriate restraint. She doesn't want to be what she's been arguing against for all these years, but also to know the tricks of the trade and how to use them when you do find actual villains. We're so lucky. And Pam Bondi's been doing the right thing too. She's leading this. She's on the ground, boots on the ground out in Minneapolis, and they're figuring out what exactly they're up against with these judges. And Harmeet mentioned the subpoenas that were issued to Walz and Jacob Frey and Ellison and another last week, because there's a question about whether they have been obstructing the feds in their effort to enforce federal law. It's one thing to not cooperate, to stay neutral. It's another to actively obstruct. And so they're going to get to the bottom of that as well. Don't go away. A new year means new financial goals, like making sure your savings are secure and diversified. Will this be the year you decide to talk to somebody from Birch Gold Group? You know, you've been thinking about it. They use an educated approach with a deep understanding of macroeconomics. There are forces pushing the dollar lower right now and gold higher, which is why they believe every American should own physical gold. So until January 30th, if you are a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you are still eligible for a rebate of up to $10,000. Consider making right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate of up to $10,000 when you buy by January 30th. Text MK to the number 989898 and claim your eligibility today. Again, text MK to 989898 now. All right, there's still a lot to go over. And just a bit, we're going to be joined by our Kelly's Court panel, Mark Eiglarsh and Mark Geragos, on what's happening in the Blake Lively case. Because yesterday, there was a motion by the defense, Team Baldoni, for summary judgment. They want, it's really just her claims against him now. Baldoni's counterclaims were thrown out in June. So now we have the original claims brought by Blake Lively against Justin Baldoni for sexual harassment, etc. And the defense moved for summary judgment, meaning give us a defense judgment without having to go to trial. And the hearing on it was yesterday. It's fully briefed. And now, in connection with this hearing coming at us, the defense motion has been released. And that's why you've probably seen all these text messages or headlines in the news about text messages that Blake Lively sent between Blake and Taylor Swift, between Blake and Matt Damon and his wife, and Ben Affleck and others. And we're going to talk about all the text messages. I mean, I have stacks on my desk. This stack over here is all Harmeet and Minneapolis and all that. This stack right here, for the listening audience, it's like covers almost the whole desk lengthwise, is all Baldoni and Blake Lively. There's so much in the text messaging. It's very fascinating. I mean, I'm going to start with this. I'll get to this when the lawyers join me next hour. But like in the law, we have the concept of the eggshell plaintiff. And it's like there are certain plaintiffs who are like the tiniest little thing, and suddenly they have severe and permanent, cervical neck injuries, right? Like, do they? She is a total eggshell plaintiff. My God. She, like, the stuff that she was whining about in these text messages as evidence of Justin Baldoni's just disgusting sexual harassment is so pathetic. Either she is the thinnest skinned person alive, or she was just trying to screw him over, or she just decided that she wanted this movie to be hers, and in her effort to bully him out, really set him up with her power by going to actresses with less power than she had and so on, and trying to gin up a little campaign against him. And, do you remember when this case first started getting going? It was like he said, she said, he started fighting back. The allegations started to look pretty flimsy on her part. And then Blake's team dropped a bunch of stuff saying, oh, no, it wasn't just Blake. You'll see. Other women on set also thought he was a creep. And I remember talking to you guys about it, saying, all right, well, that's interesting. Like if there's a parade of female witnesses who are going to say, oh, no, he Me Too'd me or he whatever. All right, now you got my attention. Now we're starting to get a better feel for who they're talking about. There's one woman who they cite in these text messages who is one of the co-hosts or co-stars of the movie. And it is pathetic. Like what she's saying he did is pathetic. All right, so there's a lot to get into. Sorry, that's just a long tease for what's coming up in about a half an hour when the lawyers join me. But there's some hard news that I want to get to before we go there. There's a huge story in the news. We covered it on AM Update. And it is yet another attempt to smear ICE. And it's gotten the left frothing at the mouth. They're so excited about this 5-year-old boy who was taken with his father to a facility because they are deporting the father. The father is here illegally, as is the mother, is our understanding. And they swooped in and they tried to remove the guy. They tried to arrest the guy so that they could remove him. And here's what happened. The left ran with, oh my God, they used this little kid as bait. That's what they want us to believe. They used him as bait. They're trying to use children to sort of get their illegal immigrant parents arrested, which is not at all what happened. That's incorrect. And that all came, as far as I can tell, from one one person who was at the school district who decided to weigh in and use that term. They used him as bait. And ICE has denied that entirely, and the facts do not support that either. All right, I do want to talk about it. Let's see. It was, the school board chair for Columbia Heights Public School. She's the one who first got this started. Do we have her soundbite, Deb? Where she says he was used as bait. Saw 28. Let's listen to it.
And as I got out of my car and came around the corner, I heard, "What are you doing? Don't take the child." His mom, there are people here that can take him. There was another adult who lived in the home that was there saying, "I will take the child. I will take the child." Somebody else was yelling. They saw that I was there and said, "School is here. They can take the child. You don't have to take them." And there was ample opportunity to be able to safely hand that child off to adults. And mom was there. She saw out the window, and dad was yelling, "Please do not open the door. Don't open the door," because of the other picture that I'm sure you've seen where there's a little boy knocking at the door with an ICE agent looming over him.
And just the second question is, are you accusing ICE of using children as bait?
Yes. I mean, it's very clear from the pictures, from the videos, from firsthand accounts. I was there. This is what happened.
Okay, fed to her, obviously, by a reporter. I think that's CNN, we're checking. Using the child as bait. So what happened was ICE went to this home to arrest, it's for the purposes of deportation, the illegal father and mother. I believe they're both in there, and they're both here illegally. That's what ICE tells us. They have a 5-year-old son, and when the dad pulled up in his car, they approached the dad, and the dad ran. This is all from ICE. The dad ran. He made a run for it. Now they want you to believe that the dad has a lawyer and all the leftist media, that he was here legally because he was seeking asylum. That's not true. I'm going to get into it in a second. But if he was here legally and there was no problem, why did he run? Why did he run? Ask yourself that. Just common sense. He ran, and he left his 5-year-old boy behind in the car. Then the ICE agents, some of them ran after the guy, and some stayed with the little boy so that he wouldn't be abandoned in the cold weather with no parent there. Meanwhile, they tried to get the mother to come outside of the house, and the witnesses report that they sent the boy up to the door to knock on the door. The mother wouldn't come out. She wouldn't come out. So I don't know whether they sent the boy up to go knock on the door or not. I accept that woman's testimonial that happened. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not bait. They were already on scene. They were focused on the father. And by the way, I'm assuming the mother is here illegally. She's fair game too. They wanted her to come outside because they wanted to see if she would take her little boy. That's actually why they were trying to get the mother. And the father's telling her, because they eventually got the dad and brought him back, not to open the door because the father doesn't want the mother to go. The ICE then promised the woman she would not be arrested. She was not going to be deported at this point. Nope, she wouldn't listen. Okay, she doesn't trust ICE. Fine. But at that point, what was ICE supposed to do? This is what J.D. Vance was saying. What do? Do they just leave the child? Let him wander? Here's J.D. Vance on that.
The school district here is alleging ICE agents detaining a 5-year-old. Are you proud of how your administration is conducting this immigration crackdown here in Minnesota right now?
Well, I'm proud of the fact that we're standing behind law enforcement, and I'm proud of the fact that we're enforcing the country's laws. But, you asked a question about this 5-year-old kid, and I see this story, and I'm a father of a 5-year-old, actually, a 5-year-old little boy, and I think to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? Well, I do a little bit more follow-up research. And what I find is that the 5-year-old was not arrested, that his dad was an illegal alien, and then when they went to arrest his illegal alien father, the father ran. So the story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Are they not supposed to arrest an illegal alien in the United States of America?
Right. What were they supposed to do? Just, okay, I guess there's no one to take him because we are arresting this dad and can't find another parent willing to claim him. Fox News reports that They did not know whether anyone else was home at the time, that they had the child knock on the door to see if anyone else, family of his, was home, and that there wasn't. So we don't know exactly how that went down, but we do believe now that the mother was inside and that she wouldn't come out and that she wouldn't claim the child. And the ICE agents were now in a position of saying, will you take your kid? No. And then you heard the school board lady say, well, I was ready to take him. Mary Granlund is her name, school board chair for Columbia Heights Public School. She was talking about how the little boy, Liam's mother, was at the window watching and didn't open the door. She said, I would have taken the child. You're an idiot. They can't just give this little boy to anyone. All right? Like, can you imagine? This is how we got in trouble under the Biden years, where he was allowing like some random adults to take custody of the children coming across the border with their families so that he could say that there wasn't separation, but there was separation. And some kids had been getting sent with their families across the border, thinking that they'd have a better shot of just being left here, that we wouldn't bother them. And then we were putting them with child molesters. This is a story we covered here on the MK show. So they cannot just give the child, even to a school board member. By the way, they can be perverts too. I'm not saying this particular woman. I'm just saying in general, they don't know. And there are protocols. And by the way, these are the same protocols that were eventually put into place under other previous administrations. So they say you got two options. And we've covered this many times. This is what they do when they deport an illegal who's here. They say, you, the parent, can give me an adult to whom I can give the child, or you can take him with you. Those are your options. And this father, who's now in custody, says, I want to take him with me. They said, fine. That's what happened. Now the father has a lawyer who's saying, no. He was an asylum seeker, not an illegal. And technically, if you're here validly claiming asylum, or not validly, they'll determine whether it's valid in a court. But if you get to a point of entry, you have to assert that you're here seeking asylum at a valid point of entry in the United States. And then they give you certain like paperwork and so on. And then you can be here for a certain amount of time until you get your asylum hearing. Usually if it gets denied, you usually have to get out, but they don't leave. Well, under Joe Biden, he issued this new edict, you may remember, right after he took office, saying, now I have something called the CBP-1 app, and you can fill out an application under this app if you're an illegal, and you can cross the border and you can say that you're seeking asylum. And for 2 years, we won't deport you. We'll treat you as an asylum seeker and we'll adjudicate your claim. And then technically you wouldn't be here illegally. Well, that was in 2023, ultimately, when he issued that. It would have expired by its terms in 2025. But when Trump took office in 2024, well, he won in 2024, he took office in January 2025, he canceled that order. Trump wiped the whole thing out, saying, nope, we're not doing that anymore. Enjoy your previous claims of asylum, but they're done. It led to an ongoing class action lawsuit, seeking nationwide class action, saying you can't terminate early. By the way, it was about to terminate anyway. It only went for 2 years, started in 23. And they sought a class certification, these immigrants, saying you can't just terminate it overnight. And they recently moved for summary judgment in their favor, which was denied. That was denied. So they did not get summary judgment in their favor. So under either the terms of that CBP asylum given by Joe Biden, which would have expired in 2 years, and certainly by what President Trump did, which was to yank it for everybody as soon as he got into office, these guys are not valid asylum seekers. He said to all of you, that's done. I'm not honoring that. Get out. He said, you can use the CBP app. We will give you a plane ticket for you and your family to go back to your country of origin, and we'll also give you $2,600. And on top of that, if you go through this app to depart and take this deal, we will treat you as though you've never done anything unlawful or you've never even tried to get here the next time you properly attempt. All of that has been offered to this man and his son, but Trump somehow is the demon. Homan is the demon. ICE is the demon. It's a lie. It's a manipulation. And we'll be right back with more. Let's talk about All Family Pharmacy. They do what pharmacies are supposed to. They just do it better. They get people the medications they need fast and at a fair price. When you don't want to wait in line or deal with insurance headaches and you want your medications delivered straight to your home, All Family Pharmacy makes it simple. When everyone around you is getting sick and you want to be prepared instead of reactive, consider All Family Pharmacy. And when your doctor refuses to prescribe medications like ivermectin, even after you've done your research, All Family Pharmacy will give you another option. They've got antibiotics, antivirals, Tamiflu, ivermectin, blood pressure medications, and a lot more. You order online. A licensed doctor reviews your request and your medications ship straight to your door. It's that simple. Be prepared for the year ahead. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/Megyn and use that code Megyn10 when you check out to save 10% on your next order. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Megyn. Use the code Megyn10 when you check out to save 10%. Okay, so don't believe the lies about the 5-year-old boy. He is with his father in a facility, and they're going to be deported together. The father was not here lawfully from the look of it, even if he had used the CBP app, as his lawyer claims, and asked for asylum. That's over. Trump terminated it, and also it's been 2 years anyway, and he got here long before. In any event, that's the end of that. Don't believe the lies from Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton or others. J.D. Vance was on fire yesterday when he went to Minneapolis to try to calm the waters. He was very reasonable. He was giving points where he needed to, but he was trying to remind people of what the true narrative here, that they're trying to get rid of very, very bad guys. And here was a direct message he had for Governor Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Fry. SOT 22.
Minneapolis Police Department, my understanding is that the actual beat cops on the ground, they would love to help out, but they're being told by somebody, I don't know if it's Mayor Frey, they're being told by somebody not to cooperate at all. Sex offenders who we're trying to get off the streets, who the local officials won't tell us their last known address. So then the local officials say, oh my God, these guys are doing widespread targeted enforcement operations, when in reality, we would love to just go to one house. The local officials won't tell us which one house to go to. There's been this weird reaction, again, unique to this city. This is not a common thing across the United States of America. There's been a very unique, very Minneapolis-specific reaction to our enforcement of federal immigration laws. What I'm trying to do here today is understand why that is. What is it about Minneapolis that has become so chaotic? Look, I don't need Tim Walz or Jacob Frey or anybody else to come out and say that they agree with J.D. Vance or Donald Trump on immigration. I just don't need that. What I do need them to do is empower their local officials to help our federal officials out in a way where this can be a little bit less chaotic and it can be a little bit more targeted. If we're trying to find a sex offender, tell us where the guy lives.
Right. Seems to make perfect sense, does it not? But they won't. They're much more focused on their little theatrics and their walkout. They're doing a walkout today at 2 p.m., I think, Minnesota time, out of school, out of work. Didn't we just try that on Tuesday? I guess it didn't get enough attention. Jane Fonda's going to be on site because, she's never seen a leftist cause she doesn't want to join. So we'll report on how that goes to you when we come back on Monday. In the meantime, we've got antics like this from college kids from the University of Minnesota in SOT 41A, protesting outside of a hotel late at night, making all sorts of noise, trying to keep the vice president awake, believing that he was inside trying to get some sleep for the night. Okay, this comes from Jess Palmadessa on TikTok. She got this. And the problem for these protesters is that J.D. Vance had left Minnesota 5 hours before that happened. So, a little bit of homework could really save you a lot of time. Instead, though, the hotel and more importantly, the local police appear to have let these protesters disturb the peace for every other person staying in that hotel, not to mention the surrounding area, for who knows how long. I guess they considered it worth it because they thought they might be upsetting J.D. Vance, who was long gone and probably by this point asleep at the vice president's residence in Washington, D.C. Can you imagine if you were in that hotel? How angry you would be? What kind of bullshit is that? Okay, these people are nuts. I think we know that. And that's why they protested at that church, because they're truly nuts. By the way, JD had a message for them too. And this was where he was much more firm. He gave them points where he could, okay, we're going to look into that. We definitely don't want what racial profiling said. We will look into that. But on some things, you could tell he knew he was on terra firma and he acted like it. SOT 21.
It's very simple. And most of these protesters, as much as I may disagree with their politics, most of them have been peaceful, but a lot of them have not been peaceful. And if you go and storm a church, if you go and insult a federal law enforcement officer, we're going to try very hard. We're going to use every resource of the federal government to put you in prison. Respect people's rights. Respect people's rights to worship, respect people's rights to do their job without being assaulted. If you follow that basic principle, the Trump administration is going to do everything that we can to protect your rights. But if you go after somebody, if you assault somebody, if you make a 9-year-old girl cry because you walked into her church and harassed her, we're going to go after you with every single tool.
Great. That's exactly right. And that's what we heard, of course, from Harmeet Dhillon, too, that they made sure these charges were brought before this Sunday so that people could go to service in peace and not have to worry about being harassed. So good for him. And he made that unambiguous. And I think everybody there has gotten the message that you try this shit, you're going to have handcuffs on you. And I don't give two shits what Don Lemon thinks. Good for them for slapping the cuffs on and doing a perp walk. That was the point. It was necessary to send a message that we are not going to tolerate this nonsense at all. You comply or you get the handcuffs and the perp walk. Got it? Very simple. Even these dumbasses should be able to follow it. And I do mean dumbasses. I've been trying to find a place to show you this. Our whole team has been laughing about this all week. You know, they've gotten really nutty out there. We showed you that, I think it was a trans person. She was bald with the nose ring. They all have the nose ring. Heavy, kind of sweaty, was singing some sort of operatic about how much she hated ICE. There's been some charmers here. By the way, it's not going well for Lizzie, who's looking for a date desperately. Very, very sad update in the Lizzie case, which we'll get to at some point. But let me bring you here to this lady who decided to make use of the anti-ICE version of the battle hymn of the Republic for the listening audience. She has an entire basket on her face. There's a whole basket on her face here. Instead of a basket case, she's a basket face. SOP 41B.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. You will get what's coming to ya.
It looks like a KKK hat.
Glory, hallelujah.
With like the top of a wicker laundry basket on the front as the mask.
Hell. Let the children come to me, the Son of God has said. ICE agents would rather put a bullet in their head. Where will you be going when you wind up good and dead? Your soul will rot in hell.
Oh, I mean, she's got the tune. I mean, she can carry a tune. I mean, I suppose it's just for attention, right? And she got on the Megyn Kelly show, so good for her. But these are not well people. Like, who would look at that and say, that's my team? Yeah, I want to sign up to be part of that. Like, all I can think is that line from Joey Tribbiani and Friends, how he's lamenting his life, how he thought he'd be a movie star. But now I find myself teaching acting to young people, most of whom are too ugly to ever be on TV. That's, I think, probably what that girl's problem is. So she went with the laundry basket, wicker approach to her mask problem, to her face. Okay, speaking of nutcases, there's a couple of them here. Now, this person, you know how Jesse Kelly like takes bets on what the likely professions are of these people? And I think he usually, one of the things he definitely always picks is school teacher and possible nurse. Yeah, here we go. So there's a registered nurse here from Ohio who posts a video about Caroline Levitt, who you may know is pregnant with her second baby. She's expecting a baby girl who will have a big brother who's only about a year and a half older than she is. And, you know, that's the kind of thing you can put partisan politics aside on and say, congrats, it's wonderful, the continuation of the human race, sweet babies being born, love it. Not so much for certain leftists. Take a look at this lady in SOP 42.
My wish for Caroline Levitt. She is pregnant with a baby girl, and I truly do hope that baby is so healthy. I hope she's healthy and headstrong, so headstrong, in fact, that as she is emerging into this world through Caroline's geriatric tech garage, that she tears her from bow to fucking stern. grade 4 tear. Like so big that when she gets out of the shower naked and walks across the room, like she accidentally picks up dog toys. Yeah. That's my wish for you, Caroline.
What a pig. I mean, truly, what a disgusting, foul pig. That person is closer to swine than she is to anything I know as like a decent human. I don't get that. It's so on brand for the same team that's been imitating the Charlie Kirk assassination gleefully. The people with the shooting in the neck, like it's something we should make fun of, like that Lucy Garcia. As far as I know, still with the teachers union in Chicago. And now here's this nurse who has taken down her account. So right on, MAGA, because you sent her a message about decency and how we're not going to tolerate that shit. She will be shamed. We're not going to hurt her, but she's going to be shamed. And her employer should be told that this is what she wishes for Republican women. Caroline Leavitt hasn't done anything. She doesn't set policy. She's a spokesperson for President Trump. So really her sin is that she's pro-Trump and she's a Republican woman. And that woman should come nowhere near right-leaning women in a hospital. Nowhere near. Is she a labor and delivery nurse? Is she hoping for a grade 4 tear, you disgusting, filthy pig, for any right-leaning woman? This is sick. This is actual mental illness. And I'm sorry to tell you, she's not alone. Here's another leftist woman on TikTok talking about the newly pregnant, or at least it's been newly announced, the baby's due in July, Usha Vance, our second lady, SOP 40.
Usha Vance, that is gross. See, y'all, that's why it is so important that we teach our daughters to have self-love and self-respect. There is no amount of proximity to power or money. The quickness with which I would be in my closet looking for a hanger. The amount of pennyroyal tea I would be drinking. The size of the staircase, okay? Does Erica know? Did y'all text her personally? Or did she find out on the interwebs like the rest of us? Gross.
Here she's pretending to throw up. So she wants Usha to kill JD's baby with a coat hanger. That's her advice, that she should do anything. Drink copious amounts of alcohol, throw herself down a flight of stairs, etc., to kill her child, her baby boy, that she shares with the sitting vice president because of politics. Usha Vance, again, what has she done? She married someone she fell in love with at Yale Law School. She went on to become a successful lawyer, like really successful. You know, clerk for Chief Justice John Roberts if you're not really damn smart. Practiced law, was a supporting, loving wife and mother, has 3 kids already, 2 boys and a girl, and now another boy on the way. And this woman wants her to throw herself down a flight of stairs or stick a coat hanger in her uterus so that the child can be killed. I mean, the level of depravity here is beyond, not to mention the gratuitous reference to Erica, a leftist fantasy that JD and Erica are having an affair because Erica gave him one of Erica's great hugs, as you guys saw her do to me on the tour. It's not sexual. It's loving. She's a spiritual person. I mean, truly, Erica hugs you and you feel like you're closer to God. But this pig wants to find something nefarious in it or disloyal in some way because JD Vance was on the receiving end of an Erica Kirk hug. There's no saving these people. I mean, it's a cult. It's a bizarre cult of weirdo leftist hate. That's what we're seeing there. And I mean, we're used to seeing it in so many contexts, but the Minnesota has really brought out the crazies, right? There's a lot of these TikTok videos inspired by what we're seeing in Minnesota and the ICE crackdowns. One actually brought me some joy, I'm not going to lie. It's from my favorite Patti LuPone, and yours too. Come on, yours too by this point. Even if I know most of you do not live anywhere near Broadway in New York, but most people at one point or another in their lives have been to Broadway and seen a Broadway show. And this woman is like the queen of Broadway. And she's so fun in her hate. Like I have to tell you, I adore her meltdowns. She's on razor's edge. She's a hair trigger away from losing it at all times. She's like a Katie Porter, this gal. So before I show you the latest, I'm just going to walk you down a little memory lane with Patti because, she's so fun. I went to her show. Company a couple years ago with two of my priest friends. And she behaved herself on stage, but it was during COVID, and you still had to have your mask up. And man, if you didn't have that mask all the way up to the nose, those ushers were like, masks up, masks up. I was like, hello? Okay, but anyway, here she was right around that time frame. After the fact, they were sitting there having like a Q&A. And boy, oh boy, she was not happy that one of the audience members didn't have the mask. Just as Patti likes it here in SOT 48C.
Put your mask over your nose. That's why you're in the theater. That is the rule. If you don't want to follow the rule, get the fuck out!
Okay. I'm one of your fans.
You do not respect the people that are sitting around you. You pay my salary. Bullshit. Chris Harper pays my salary. Who do you think you are? Just put your mask over your nose.
Yeah. So she's a really lovely lady. That's not all. She went on The View in 2023 and had this message. SOT 48D.
I don't know what the difference between our Christian right and the Taliban is. I have no idea what the difference is.
You're not the only person who's said that.
I just don't know what the difference is. Yeah. What's happening in this country right now in the name of religion is so dangerous.
Okay, so she thought it would be a good time to weigh in on Minneapolis. And this time she has some inspiration. It's an inspirational message for the protesters. Take a look at this latest Instagram post. SOT 48B.
I'm Patti LuPone. I am standing in solidarity with the brave people of Minnesota who are fighting back against the hostile takeover of their state by ICE and the Trump administration with a day of truth and freedom, January 23rd, tomorrow. Minnesotans are coming together to protest ICE with a general strike. That means no work, no school, no shopping. We still have our First Amendment rights to free speech and to protest, and the best way to protect those rights is to use them. How ICE is treating our neighbors is horrifying and wrong. If you'd like to support our Minnesotan brothers and sisters, go to iceoutmn.com for more information. If you're in Minnesota, join the march tomorrow at 2 p.m. in the Commons downtown. I'm with you, Minnesota. We all are.
Oh my gosh, she looks terrifying. Okay, for the listening audience, she's got the very short, sort of, I don't know what you like, not even a bob, just like a man's hair. Very, very short. She's got blue glasses on and she looks like a hostage. You gotta go look at this online, please, the listening audience. She looks terrifying and terrified at the same time. And what is with the hard pronunciation of every consonant? Is that her theatrical training? Because to it, I object. Steve, you got to find the number of the episode where we went back and did the long Patti LuPone story. It was one of my favorite things ever. You guys remember this? Where she got into this fight with the fellow Broadway actress, a couple of them. But the other actress who really she got in the fight with was black. So, Patti LuPone's side of the aisles rules. Patti loses, bitch. Sorry. The old white lady never defeats the younger black lady. That's the rule on your side, Patti. I didn't make them. You did. And now you're going to have to listen to it. So what happened there was she was in a show, Patti, called The Roommate, which shared a wall, the theater, with actress Keisha Lewis's show, Hell's Kitchen, which is the Alicia Keys musical. And Patti was upset because it was too loud. She spoke with the head of the other theater. She asked him if he could fix the noise problem because it's a musical. It's Alicia Keys. It's loud. Well, Keisha thought that was racist because she labeled a black show loud. We actually have it. It's SOT 48E, just for fun. Let's listen to
Ms.
Keisha Lewis.
LuPone, these actions, in my opinion, are bullying. They're offensive. They're racially microaggressive. They're rude. They're rooted in privilege, and these actions also lack a sense of community and leadership for someone as yourself who has been in the business as long as you have. I want to explain what a microaggression is. These are subtle, unintentional comments or actions that convey stereotypes, biases, or negative assumptions about someone based on their race. Examples include calling a black show loud in a way that dismisses it. Referring to a predominantly black Broadway show as loud can unintentionally reinforce harmful stereotypes, and it also feels dismissive of the artistry and the voices that are being celebrated on stage. Ms. LuPone, I respectfully submit to you that you owe us an apology, not flowers.
Okay, well, she wasn't ready to apologize because then Patti sat down with the New Yorker and they talked all about her little controversy. And here's the quote. "Oh my God," Patti LuPone said, balking when I brought up the incident. "Here's the problem." She's talking here about that actress, Keisha Lewis. "She calls herself a veteran. Let's find out how many Broadway shows Keisha Lewis has done, because she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about." She Googled how many she had done. "She's done 7. I've done 31. Don't call yourself a vet, bitch." She's so charming. But she really, really wants you to go to the Minneapolis protest because she stands in solidarity with Minnesota. Okay, that's your moral leader there. By the way, then there was a pile-on of literally 600 Broadway stars calling her racist and degrading and misogynistic. And then guess what she did? Oh, and then they pulled the real Trump card. They said she should not be welcome to industry events, including the Tonys, fundraisers, and public programs. And guess what Patti LuPone did? Oh, she got down on that knee and bent it. She bent it, my friends. Wasn't so angry in the moment. She used her best theatrical skills to feign empathy for the black community to whom she had caused such offense. And they forgave her. And now she's still trying to curry favor with them, sending her support to the protesters of Minnesota. So that's Patti LuPone. That was an important one for me to get to. While we're on the subject of silly women doing silly things. Yesterday, Amy Klobuchar announced that, well, she didn't announce that she's running for governor of Minnesota, but she filed the paperwork. So that's the first step. She's got it. She's obviously running. And it made some bring back a very funny clip of Amy Klobuchar, because when she decided to run for president in 2020, and you remember Trump was going to be the Republican on the other side, she announced it on a very snowy day in Minnesota. And she was at that presidential announcement reading a pre-written speech that didn't really factor in what it was going to look like. We're showing the visual audience video of her. She's got white hair. Her hair is brown. Her hair is completely white in this clip. She's in the middle of a blizzard blowout. And the speech is all about climate change and global warming and how it's so warm. Like literally she's covered in snow. So Trump made fun of her at the time and said she looked like a snow woman. You know, it was just a passing tweet that he did, or True Social, like she looks like a snow woman. Well, in honor of this weekend storm, I think some people, and her, filing the paperwork for governor yesterday, some people decided to dredge up a clip. And let me just show you something. So Amy Klobuchar had a comeback to Trump on Twitter at the time. You're going to hear what it was in this clip. And let me just tell you, she was really, really proud of her comeback. Look at this. It was put together by The Daily Show in 2019 and resurfaced on X just recently.
The president actually sent out a tweet. He made fun of me for talking about climate change in the middle of a blizzard, and he called me Snow Woman. So I wrote back, "Hey, Donald Trump, the science is on my side, and I'd like to see how your hair would fare in a blizzard." So I wrote back, "Hey, Donald Trump, the science is on my side, and I'd like to see how your hair would fare in a blizzard." So I wrote back, "Donald Trump, the science is on my side, and I'd like to see how your hair would fare in a blizzard."
There are 10,000 more examples, literally. I mean, there might actually be 10,000. There are definitely dozens. She tells it the same way every time. How your hair would fare in a blizzard. All I could think about when I watched it was the amazing Parker Posey and the absurd characters that she plays, from Best in Show, which was spectacular. And then most recently, her appearance with that fake Southern accent in The White Lotus. We queued up a little bit of it just so you can see where my mind went. Here it is.
We flew over the North Pole, but you're not a Buddhist. She's so gentle, but also firm. You want to live in Taiwan? Because you need your family. You do. Most people don't have good values.
You're getting me? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Like, she's giving off Parker Posey vibes. How your hair would look in a blizzard. It's like she's having, some bathroom issues. Okay. Anyway, she could be the next governor of Minnesota. I feel like she's going to fit in just perfectly out there. She's going to replace tampon, possibly. We'll see. We'll see about that. Okay, now I want to get to what's happening in the Baldoni and Lively lawsuit, because there are a lot of texts that we got to go through. We're going to do that when we come back with our pals from MK True Crime. The Marks are here today, Eiglarsh and Geragos next. Grand Canyon University, an affordable private Christian university based in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, is one of the largest universities in the country. Praised for its culture of community and impact, GCU integrates the free market system, a welcoming Christian worldview, and free and open discourse into more than 360 academic programs, including more than 300 online. Join a nationwide community of learners redefining what online education looks like through academically rigorous, industry-driven programs that can spark bold ideas and prepare you for a future that matters. In addition to federal grants and aid, GCU's online students received nearly $161 million in institutional scholarships in 2024. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu/myoffer to see the scholarships for which you may qualify. It had been fairly quiet in the Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively legal saga the last few weeks, but that changed days ago. They have a May trial date. Justin Baldoni is trying to get the case tossed before that. He wants judgment in his favor on the papers, summary judgment, saying there's no issue of material fact for a jury to decide on these sexual harassment claims, which is the basic case and claim against him, and that the judge should end this case in his favor right now. As part of his filings, we saw for the first time yesterday, they argued at the hearing this motion. So this week, his motion was released. It was unsealed. Daily Mail got their hands on it. A number of messages from A-list celebrities, including some very mean girl chats between Lively and none other than Taylor Swift. Here to help us break it all down and tell us what it means legally are two of our favorites and MK True Crime hosts, criminal defense attorneys Mark Eiglarsh and Mark Geragos. Go and subscribe to MK True Crime now on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Just go into the podcast app and type in MK True Crime, and then you hit subscribe, and you can follow them. Big announcements to come, by the way. Mark and Mark, welcome. Boy, oh boy, that May trial is going to keep you guys very, very busy.
Yes.
Okay, but so this was the defense, Baldoni, trying to get the case thrown out. And before we get into the many, many, many texts, which are very interesting, let's face it, how do you think it went for the defense, Mark Eiglarsh, yesterday? Do you think they have a shot?
Anyone's got a shot, like Dumb and Dumber. I think this judge is going to let a jury decide factually whether there's enough here. If we're talking about the regular workplace, when you ask someone how heavy they are, or if you kiss them a little bit too much when they don't want that, it would seem that's outrageous. That's not good at all for anyone being accused. But when you're making a romantic movie and there's kissing already involved, and he needs to lift her, for example, so he needs to know possibly how much she weighs, or that was just an inappropriate comment.
He's got a back injury.
Right. So, the difficulty is going to be Lively being able to prove that this really rose to the level of what she's alleging.
My general impression yesterday, Mark Geragos, is that's what the defense was saying. Like, these are petty Annie complaints that cannot possibly rise to the level of like serious and pervasive that would be needed to be able to prove a hostile work environment existed on that set, especially considering that it was like this sexy film that involved a lot of very sexually charged scenes. And she knew that going in. But the judge, to the extent he said anything, seems to have kind of not sided with Blake Lively, but kind of been like, all those little things, if you add them all up, can equal a problematic environment. So what was your take on it?
So in full disclosure, I think I've told you this before, and you have disclosed as well, Brian Friedman could not be a closer friend. I have not talked to him about this, but somebody else who was in the courtroom said this judge is so over this case that it's palpable. And I will tell you that if I'm Blake Lively, I don't understand what that AI created lawyer of hers is doing in this case, because all of the stuff that was revealed in terms of the text, what you labeled Mean Girl text, which I don't think there's a good way to put a spin on them if you're Lively or Taylor Swift, I think make this look like a pox on both their houses at this point. And I don't know if he's going to kick it, but I've been in a courtroom with federal judges who just can't take another minute of it. And I get the feeling that that's where we're headed in this case.
All right. Well, I mean, the only power he has to get rid of it is to grant the motion for summary judgment that Justin has filed. Short of that, he can encourage settlement talks. But we all know, as you guys current lawyers and yours truly as a recovering one, they can't force us to do that, and we can hold out just as long as we want to. And that's one of the few powers we and our clients actually have over the judge. He cannot tell us when the case must go away unless he actually dismisses it. So here's my overall take on the text, and then we'll read specific ones. I think they make Blake Lively look like she was conniving behind the scenes for the entire time. She was actively working to marshal forces against Justin, whether it was her co-stars, her husband, A-list Hollywood talent, Taylor Swift, all of whom she wanted to sort of generate buzz behind her to say her cut of the movie, because Brian Friedman is Justin's lawyer, along with some others, that Brian's claim that she was basically just wresting control away from him, and these fake sexual harassment allegations were just part of it. Like she was a bitch. She tried to take over the movie. She got a bunch of negative publicity because she was promoting her hairline products when she's pushing a movie about domestic violence. And there was a backlash in the press. And then she got her hands on some PR people who work with Justin on their text exchanges about her, just talking about what a nightmare she was and how they were enjoying some of her bad publicity. But she hasn't, as far as I understand, been able to prove that they were the genesis of the bad publicity. That's her theory, but she's going to have to prove that at court. The negative text celebrating her getting bad press doesn't mean that they caused it all. In fact, he says he didn't cause any of it. She caused it. But what you see here is a woman who is determined to wrest control of the film from him, as Brian's alleging, who is doing her best with her A-list celebrities to push support for her cut of the film, which normally an actress doesn't even get, for her to kind of threaten Justin in some texts about her, her dragons, Ryan Reynolds, her husband, and Taylor Swift, which we've seen before, but then some longer versions of that. And then there are the texts with her co-stars. This guy, Brandon, is it Sklenar. He was in The Housemaid and quite dreamy. I'm just going to note for the record. He was a very good looking guy. Her text with him and her text with this other woman, is it Rachel Scott? I have them here someplace. Show a woman who is determined to get bad things said about Justin Baldoni. Let me start with Taylor Swift because that's what everybody wants to hear. Okay. First, she gets it in the New York Times that she had filed a complaint against him with the California Civil Rights Department, saying that he sexually harassed her. And she's thrilled that she's getting this bad publicity for Justin Baldoni. And Taylor Swift texts her on December 21st after it hits. You won. You did it. You effing, except it's not effing, it's spelled out, help so many people who won't have to go through this ever again. And then she says, you guys don't understand how rare this is to have proof and to take the perfect steps to bring that truth to light. Lively replied, like, my God. then I love you so much, she writes to Taylor. I would not be okay through any of this if it weren't for you. And Lively,
by the way,
let's
Megyn,
see.
can I just say one thing? The idea of celebrating filing a complaint with the California Department is, you can be we have a code section called 5150 where you're a danger to yourself or others. I've seen so many of these complaints. Anybody can file one. That it's meaningless.
Of course, but we all know this and the New York Times article.
Right.
And apparently Blake is on record in the case as having denied that she ever discussed the New York Times article with Taylor Swift. But this certainly could be a reference to that. Right. I mean, you did it. You called this attention to it. She's thrilled. And what are the odds that Taylor Swift only knew about the civil rights complaint and completely missed the New York Times article, breaking the news of it?
She's monitoring the California Civil Rights Administrative Act.
The docket.
Right, the docket, but not, but not New York Times. I missed that totally.
Exactly. So it seems clear. I think that the reason it's relevant is it appears that Blake may have misled in saying she never discussed any of that with Taylor Swift. Then there's some earlier texts during the course of the movie where Lively asked Taylor Swift for help. She referred to Baldoni as the doofus director of my movie. She described him as a clown who, quote, thinks he's a writer now. She asked Swift to endorse the revised script she was proposing. Even though she hadn't read it, she texted to Taylor Swift, "You don't have to read, of course." Then Brian alleges Swift agreed to do Lively's bidding, texting Lively, "I'll do anything for you." Lively's side disputed that she asked Swift to endorse the script without reading it, only that she, quote, hoped she would. I mean, here's the actual text. It reads, let's see. I can't find it, but that's an accurate representation of it. Okay, now there's more. This is Taylor. This is Blake texting to Taylor. And the date is May 19th, 2024. She's talking about some showing of the film. She writes, "By the way, I have so much to tell you. The author Colleen," she authored the book that the movie was based on, "reached out to me because Justin is on an internal smear campaign trying to get his edit through. She was horrified and reached out on her own to talk to me. Turns out he effing lied. She's not Baha'i, which is his religion, never has been. She's not friends with him at all. She actually hates him. She was his safety net all along. Meanwhile, he shut her out and wouldn't include her in anything and told her she had no voice or value, yet paraded her around in front of the cameras for goodwill and told us all his decision that he got pushback on were all her ideas. It's wild," she writes. "She flew to New York where I screened my cut for the first time yesterday. It killed in the room." Then she says to Taylor, "Bradley," I think meaning Cooper, "came. He watched it twice. He's been an absolute effing hero. He has made me feel so good about the cut. Matt and Lucy Damon saw it to give notes and instead just wrote Tom Rothman to try to push my edit through without a bake-off with Justin, which is also what Colleen is pushing for. It's wild and crazy times." Taylor responds, "No one should ever get into a war of wills with you. And I'm so excited to see it." Then they talk about how Taylor texted that Justin was a dope to allow her song to be used in the trailer for the film because she's Team Blake. And the two little mean girls have a giggle about how dopey Justin was to accept Blake Lively's suggestion that Taylor, like,
I don't, by
they're
the
just
way,
nasty at every turn.
By the way, I don't disagree with that. He was a dope for allowing that because it was a improvised explosive device in his own project.
Megyn, I don't know about these texts. I don't know that I see them the same way you do. Okay. I do welcome that, she's trying to grab people to be on her team and she's got a meritless argument about things being real tough on set, but she's just looking to create. Yeah, I get all that. But equally possible is that she is going through some real challenges, and like anybody who goes through challenges, and I think, maybe when you went through challenges at Fox News or whenever we go through challenges, you definitely want to empower your friends to help you, to lean on for support. That's what it looks like to me she's doing.
Wow.
And she's reaching out not only to Taylor Swift to help her, but also to, as the reference made clear, Matt Damon.
What's wrong with that?
There's a May 2024 text. I'm just filling out the record,
You
sir.
go right ahead.
Between Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and the Damons. Reynolds asking the Damons, Matt and his wife Lucy, to watch the film. Lively then begging them to do so, saying the movie, quote, nearly killed me. Matt Damon replies, oh, and then she says Justin's in a cult. Matt Damon replies, we'll give you any help we can. And if this experience hasn't totally destroyed your soul, Blake, you should come direct your next movie at Artist Equity. We're kind of a cult, but a really nice one. Lucy Damon said it was insane the power this guy has with no experience to back him. After being told that Baldoni claimed during filming to have been able to speak to Lively's dead father, Lucy Damon replied, what in the actual F? I'm fascinated by this creep. I think you should do a movie about this guy. Lively replied, I already have the name of my doc, Lights, Cult, Action. Reynolds chimed in saying he'd never seen anything like it, that Baldoni is a sociopathic feminist, because Baldoni's got some like feminist blog and podcast. And then we had the infamous My Dragons are Taylor Swift and Reynolds, and they fight for me. And, you know, they'll fight for you too, but really they're mine. Part of it is that she's poisoning the well on the set about him, Mark Geragos. She's making sure on the set and off the set, everyone hates this guy, and she wants to make sure he will never work again. And her whole complaint in this lawsuit is that he was super mean by using PR people to protect him. But meanwhile, you see her smear campaign against him in writing, black and white, to some of the biggest players in Hollywood.
So this is a perfect example of the Mark's reasonable minds can differ, because I can't, and I make a living out of trying to see the other side. I don't see the other side here. I see these texts. It's obvious, at least to me, as to what's happening here. She's marshaling her friends and others to try to lean on him and to take him out. I mean, by the way, we're in a civil lawsuit, and in a civil lawsuit, the standard is basically just a little bit more on one side or the other. I think you have a really, really uphill battle if you're lively trying to characterize this in any way. That
I don't disagree with the other Mark. There's no question she's looking to take him out. There's no question she's not asking people to look at him favorably. The only question is whether she's doing that because she genuinely is going through a horrific experience on the set like she alleges. And I don't know whether that's true or not. Just throwing out the idea. And she's looking for support.
So we'll get to that.
She's looking for support from others because it really is that horrific. Those text messages, I think, could be used in the case to support her claim. The rest are fodder for the court of public opinion.
Well, the interesting part about that, though, is if she was in some kind of psychological distress, and, you know, it's above my pay grade, but it certainly doesn't come through in this. It reeks of connivance, not of distress to me.
It does reek of connivance. Good word. Yes, and part of what's relevant here is he says, I had to hire a PR team to protect me because she and her husband were way bigger stars than I was. And I was well aware she was trying to ruin me. That's why, because this had been bubbling behind the scenes before the movie ever hit the public eye. And she made a point of keeping him literally in a basement the night of the premiere, and of unfollowing him on social and having all the cast unfollow him on social. These cast members are going to do whatever she says. Yeah. And so his whole point is, I was placed in a position where anything I did was defensive. It was not offensive to ruin her. I was watching my career get destroyed inch by inch. Go ahead.
Yes, no, that's where these text messages are key. On her claim that he went to ruin her, he went on an evisceration campaign. Wait a second, you're clearly doing it on your text. There's no question that's what she's doing. The biggest names in Hollywood are now looking negatively at him because of her. And then secondly, you got this little thing called the First Amendment, freedom of speech. He can't then defend himself in the public. I think there's zero merit to that claim that she's making.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. That's the problem with this. When you take a look at them in context and have to tell a story, and as you know better than anybody, you know, that's what a trial is. The story that she wants to tell, I don't even know what it is. It just doesn't hang right to me.
because then you get to, because you made a good point, Eiglarsh, about the, like, it starts off with, I was subjected to a hostile work environment as an actress on this set. That Justin Baldoni and his partner are complete assholes. They behaved inappropriately, like at every turn, to the point where I had to get them in the middle of shooting to agree to like a 12-point plan to where they would stop the on-set harassment.
That's good
and
for
then,
her.
This is her story.
That supports her. This is good.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is her story. Yeah. I'm giving you her story. Yeah. And then she says, in retaliation, because they knew that they'd behaved badly, they hired this PR, group to try to ruin me. And so all the negative press I started getting about how terrible I was generated by them. It was retaliatory for my raising sexual harassment complaints. That's her story. His story is all the stuff you complained about was either made up or totally mild and an absolute nothing burger. Like you said, I walked in on you while you were breastfeeding your baby in the trailer, and then he produced a text message of her saying, come on over to my trailer. I'm breastfeeding my baby, but you're welcome, right? He's like, okay, so you made up some shit. You left out some stuff, and you weren't actually offended by the stuff that you're complaining about. And so I, the minor player, hired a PR firm to defend me. The bad publicity you are complaining about, however, was generated by you, by picking on some no-name reporter who saw your baby bump, which was considerable, in an interview, and said, like, I love your baby bump. Like, how far along are you? And you looked at her like a nasty witch, and you were like, how far along are you? I mean, she snapped back at this non-pregnant reporter who was in Blake's world a nothing, a nobody, which, as you guys well know, America does not respond well to. Like the beautiful, rich, powerful starlet, like dumping on this nobody reporter who asked a very normal question anybody would ask. That's not good. The promotion of her flower brand and her hair brand while she's talking about women getting the hell beat out of them in this movie was off. People didn't like it, and there was a lot of negative press. So that's his story. Like, you have yourself to blame. Anyway, so all these texts kind of shed some light on this. Now, what I said, we're going to have to carry this over because we're not done, but what I said about, is there somebody else from the cast who's going to say that Justin was terrible, that he was a harasser, that he was a weirdo, a creep? Now we're talking, right? Like, if Blake Lively has that, right, that's very good.
Right. This isn't about what happened. It's about what she can prove. That's really what trials are about.
I really think this case is going to come down to, it's kind of a chicken or egg argument. Is she basically, Lively, saying all of this was done because he harassed me? Or is it, as Baldoni says, she decided she wanted to wrest control of the film, and she used the pretext of Me Too, because remember when this happened in the continuum, and she's using all of that as nothing more than a pretext.
Well said. Well said. That's it.
That's what it comes down to. That's
I agree.
Where the battle's
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's why showing that, like, this complaint was empty. This was a nothing burger. This whole thing with the 12-point plan was just a setup to get me, because she wanted control of the movie. She wanted the final cut. There's a clip of her on camera saying, like, I always want to be the secret director or writer, and I just kind of lay my evil plans and I don't say them out loud, but then that's what I do when I take over the movie. And that's what she did to his movie. But she wasn't the director. She wasn't an editor. She didn't have final cut. And he gave her some mild pushback, which she didn't like. So then she tried subterfuge against him. This is part of what he's alleging. So now we're learning a lot more about the other women on the set who allegedly couldn't stand Justin and also thought he was a creepy pervert. The woman is named Jenny Slate. As far as we know, this is the only other one she's got. We'll have to continue this on the opposite side of this break. But Jenny Slate was also in the movie, and in court documents, per the Daily Mail, she described the shoot as, quote, really gross and disturbing. And she tells Blake Lively about what she calls Baldoni's unprofessional behavior and, quote, the weird stuff he pulled during the first half of filming. And now we learn exactly what it is she's referring to, which I will tell you about just in a couple of minutes. We're going to take a quick break. More with Mark and Mark right after this. Mark Squared is here on Baldoni and Blake. Okay, so back when Baldoni first started to fight back, right? Blake dropped her complaint. She went to the New York Times, and her California Human Rights Department complaint turned into a legal complaint in court. Then Brian Friedman, on behalf of Baldoni, starts fighting back and getting some of this more exculpatory stuff out into the press. And then her side came out and amended their complaint, alleging that, without naming them, there were two women, two actresses, who also raised concerns with Lively and with the production company over Baldoni's, quote, unwelcome behavior during filming. They say the experiences of Lively and others were documented at the time they occurred, starting in May of 2023. He knew that women other than Ms. Lively also were uncomfortable and had complained about his behavior. And they write, more importantly, defendants' false narrative crumbles under the indisputable truth that Ms. Lively was not alone in complaining about Mr. Baldoni and raised her concerns contemporaneously as they arose in 2023. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I don't know who the other woman is, but I know one of them now is Jenny Slate, who played Alyssa in this movie. I haven't seen the movie. But Jenny Slate is in these text messages with Blake Lively. And I'm going to read you what they say. She says that, hold on, it starts on this other article. She described the shoot as really gross and disturbing. This is in a message sent to a confidant, I think to Jenny's agent. According to court records revealed by the Daily Mail, the 43-year-old actress was questioned about those texts during her deposition in September. During the deposition, attorneys reviewed messages that Jenny Slate, who played Alyssa, sent to her former agent, in which she criticized Baldoni and other producer Jamie Heath, his partner. In one message, Slate wrote, "It's like fascinating and also so shitty. Justin and Jamie are truly unfit." She also referenced Lively repeatedly, expressing concern for her friend and colleague while filming under Baldoni's direction. "I'm not scared or anything, just repulsed and deeply irritated. And I know Blake is experiencing it on a much more serious level. He is worse than most of the bros I've encountered," she wrote about Baldoni, adding that she viewed him as a false ally and rejected what she described as his male feminist image. She called Heath truly unprofessional. "Justin and Jamie freaked me out," she added, claiming they told really weird lies and that Baldoni was astoundingly wrong-headed. Well, I'm very interested to know what the hell happened between Baldoni and Jenny Slate. Yeah. The Daily Mail goes on to report what we think it is. Here it is. Alarming behavior. She texted with Lively about it. Okay, it's Lively and Jenny texting back and forth. And this appears to be Lively texting, "You, Jenny, were standing there for the thing he said to me when he said, 'I look hot.' I said, 'That's not what I'm going for.' And he said, 'Okay, sexy.' Then he made a joke, asked if he crossed a line, and I said, yes, he must have missed the sexual harassment meeting." That's big incident number one.
He's a director in a sexy movie. I mean, in some context, that would be not okay. And maybe it was inappropriate. Maybe it had nothing to do with the movie. But they are making a movie where there's love scenes. She has to look sexy. Yes. It's not like, you're,
Eiglarsh,
you know?
You got to get the smelling salts over to Geragos because he's not able to handle this level of raciness.
My God, you look hot. Oh, I may never recover.
How dare he say that to her? Yeah.
Right. So now this to me is Blake Lively trying to get. Nobody knows who the hell Jenny Slate is, but it would be very good for Jenny Slate to be in good with Blake and Ryan. So this is her reaching out to a lesser known, being like, "Remember, you were there when he said the truly offensive thing to me?" And by the way, it sounds like Blake Lively laughed it off. Yeah, you must have missed the sexual harassment training, which is something a woman can do, but obviously did not put him on notice that he had deeply offended her. Then the text turned to another alleged exchange, per the Daily Mail, where Lively and Slate discuss their admiration for Britney Spears before Baldoni reportedly made what Slate called a, quote, disturbing comment. So Jenny Slate is disturbed by what happened here. Okay, my God, what did he say? Walk us through it. What did he say about poor Britney Spears and all her troubles? Okay, here's Blake. And then later, when you said I think this is Blake saying to Jenny. Yeah, it's Blake. And then later, when you said you used to stare at Britney Spears' midsection for hours before you finished and said what an athlete she was and how remarkable she seemed as a young girl, he jumped in and said, same, and giggled. But then I rolled when we just looked at him. You need the smelling salts again?
Right. Okay, literally, her name is Slate. You want to call her blank slate for a lot of reasons, because this is literally maybe the most unhinged kind of misinterpretation I've ever seen or heard. I don't know how they do it with a straight face.
It's possible.
It's made up.
But hold on.
Wait, Mark. Yeah. Let me read you this, Eiglarsh, and then I
always like to take the other side.
I know you do. You're very
just to keep it balanced, folks.
Yes.
Come on, go ahead.
I like that. But I'm making it hard for you. But here's how Slate replied to that text from Lively about the deeply offensive Britney Spears same comment, and then a giggle, and then an eye roll. My God,
that's a microaggression.
It's a giggle and an eye roll. So Slate replied, yes, exactly. Those are two perfect examples. The first one, which was the alarming behavior about you look hot.
Right.
The first one, she writes, is an example of a total overstep and unwanted comment. The second, which is the giggle and same about admiring Britney Spears' midsection, is such a great example of how now I just feel inclined to shut down because I don't want to invite any other comments from him. It's just gross and stupid. I shut down Mark Eiglarsh because of the Britney Spears midsection admiration.
All right, you guys ready for the other side? Listen.
Yes. Come on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's possible, and you would concede, it's possible that she really does find this inappropriate, that it really does genuinely bother her. And then now you've got somebody else corroborating that what he said really was said, and that they also found it to be inappropriate. And that's not going to bode well for him. Now, that said, hold on now. Don't you interrupt me.
Can I just ask you a question?
What I'm saying is that maybe a movie.
Wait, hold that thought, Geragos.
Maybe a movie where you're having fake sexual relations with this guy you disdain may not be the strongest choice for you. Maybe there's some Disney movies you should probably be on the set with where no one's going to say you're hot. You know, and take it out of context.
The remake of Little House on the Prairie, perhaps.
Well, that's a different case, but
that's actually gone south too.
Yes,
go ahead.
But my question for you, Mark Eiglarsh, as you're making this rather heroic defense of the indefensible, is if you're saying that the two people met and they both agree and they're getting some kind of sustenance emotionally from their Venn diagram overlap, basically your argument is unhinged and unhinged equals hinged, because there is no way that in a rational society with rational discourse that is overstepping the line. You have really kind of, I think, elevated kind of psychosis to be normal.
I disagree. And I think Megyn would back me up on this. In certain contexts, someone saying you're sexy when you don't want them to say that, or making comments like that, can be very offensive.
When it's your boss.
Okay, and isn't he? Keep going. Have my back on this, Megyn. Come on.
Megyn, how many times did that
Hold
happen?
on, Geragos.
This has literally happened to
She's
me.
going to help me. Here we go. Here we go, Megyn. Let's go. Let's go.
Yes, as it's already been made public what happened at Fox News, but Roger Ailes literally did say, I bet you look super sexy in your bra. It's like, okay.
How'd that make you feel?
That's definitely not appropriate comment.
How did that make you feel?
Not great.
Hot. Yeah, I mean.
Awkward AF, as they say.
There you go.
But yeah, no, when it comes from your boss, who's clearly got power over you, he's the most powerful man in the industry, and you're a nobody in the industry, that's all problem. Oh, please, the power.
He's the one telling you what to do. The director on the set is not like the boss on the set.
You know, I often think of my.
She was the producer and a far bigger star, Geragos. You're a Hollywood man. Explain to Eiglarsh how it works.
Let me just explain something to you, because back when Harvey first started having all of his troubles, Weinstein, Ben Brofman, who's a good friend of mine, once said, for decades in Hollywood, there's been this casting couch, and there is a whole kind of culture, if you will, and it's horrible, but it was condoned. And I understand that, and nobody's defending any of that. But set that aside for a second. If we've reached the point in society where you look hot has caused you this kind of emotional distress, all I can think of is my grandmother, who fled the genocide, was in a Turkish orphanage, somehow escaped and made it to America, and had my dad when she was 14. I can't imagine if I told her that, if she was here today, and it's my dad's birthday, even though he's passed away, she would look at me like I had lost my mind.
I would agree with you if that was the only allegation. But you take that coupled with everything else, and I'm not saying it can be proven or it's legitimate. I'm just saying there's more to it. And you now have someone backing her up.
There is. He looked at
up.
Britney Spears' midsection, which, along with 25 million other people.
Same. But don't forget the eye roll, the giggle and the eye roll, Geragos.
Yes, which
don't straw man it.
Okay,
there was a giggle.
Thank you.
Followed by the eye roll. Okay, here is what an eggshell plaintiff Blake Lively is. I mean, like, just the tap on the head, and she's got some sort of a skull fracture. This full message about the dragons has now come out. I don't know that I'd seen the entire thing, but it is the most pathetic little display. I'm going to read you part of it. This is from her to Justin. As for Blank and Ryan, and Blank for that matter, I think Taylor is one of the people she's referencing here. I'm the luckiest mother, Blank, I think it's effer, on the planet to have them as my dance moms level stage moms. They are embarrassingly effusive. That said, they're also my most trusted partners and the people I go to first with anything creative I touch, and I'm the person they each go to first. That reciprocal creativity and support has been one of my life's greatest gifts and most fulfilling gifts. When they loved and signed off on the pages that she wrote, she's saying, I felt good to send them to you. They asked what you thought specifically after. They checked in so many times. I told them that you laughed a bunch and said, it's probably a blend, but you appreciate my passion so much. Which, of course, didn't feel great for me or them to have my passion be praised instead of any specific contribution, or even just that you didn't like the pages, which was fine also. So this is yet another egregious barbaric behavior by him, Geragos.
I can hardly
sent
wait
him her
for
rewrites.
Eiglarsh to the rescue. Mark, please.
This is not you look sexy.
Praised
this
her
is
passion.
different. Go on. Yeah.
Dance moms didn't like it, and neither did Blake. What's with the passion? Then she goes on. I'm going to give you a little more. So I think they wanted you and me to see how they felt about the work, because they've been by my side for far too many experiences where I've been overlooked. I spoke to you about this when we first met. They've watched me handwrite scripts because the director is too afraid to send the file. Yet he scans and he has someone hand type all 120 pages of my pencil rewrites. They've watched me be hired as a writer and paid a significant fee for it, but on the condition that I never ask for credit, which I could give a shit about. I don't care. It's more the principle of the dynamic at play. They've watched the other side of it too, where I am told at signing that I am wanted as a true collaborator. But once we get to work, I'm really just wanted as a yes man audience and actor. Here we go, big finish. Both Ryan and something blacked out have established themselves as absolute titans and writers and storytellers outside of their primary gig, just singing or just acting. Obviously, the blacked out name is Taylor, or just directing. I'm so lucky to have them as creative barometers, but also to have them as the people who prop me up and make sure I am seen for all I can and all I do offer.
All right.
Because they know firsthand all that I contribute. They also know I'm not always as good at making sure that I am seen and utilized for fear of threatening egos or fear of affecting the ease of the process. They don't give a shit about that. And because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people liking me. And then there is the...
Oh, boy. All right.
If you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones,
there's more.
I know, this is it.
No, I have a strong feeling about this.
You'll appreciate.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You'll appreciate that I'm Khaleesi. And like her, I happen to have a few dragons for better or for worse, but usually for better. Because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So really, we all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine.
God.
You will
Now there's
too.
an English accent here or something. What is it?
You.
Yeah.
That's everything. This is an absurd person.
Okay, hold on.
Absurd person.
I have
Go
strong
ahead,
feelings,
Mark Eiglarsh.
very strong feelings. It's not going to be what you think. These are very damaging for Lively. Because if I'm cross-examining her, now you have motive. This isn't about you look sexy, you're uncomfortable on the set. This is I'm pissed off because of other reasons. And now you can easily point to a motive. She's upset about so many other things that she's then picking the lane, the harassment. Again, this is the argument. I don't know if that's what she's doing, but harassment and his words are so terrible. But it really is about so many other issues, not getting the credit, not getting the ego tapped, all that other stuff. I think it's going to be easy to cross-examine her.
Well, yeah, just ask a question.
I think it's going to be super fun.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, all you got to do is ask a question because this is damaged goods.
Well, remember in the complaint, hold on, I want to pull this up because we pulled the seam. We've talked about this, but she has a tendency to overstate things. Okay, from her complaint, she wrote, at one point, Justin leaned forward and slowly dragged his lips from her ear and down her neck as he said, "It smells so good." None of this was remotely in character or based on any dialogue in the script, and nothing needed to be said because, again, there was no sound. Mr. Baldoni was caressing Miss Lively with his mouth in a way that had nothing to do with their roles. We have this, right? Do we have this, Robert? We have this video.
Weren't the cameras rolling when he was doing this? And so if he improvised,
yes, the cameras were rolling.
Actors improvise. They're encouraged to do so.
Here it is. Oh, giggle eye roll. Quiet, watch. That's harassment you're watching right there.
It would be if it wasn't a movie.
I'm not getting beard on you today.
Right.
I'm probably getting beard.
I mean, you know.
Well, it's not that. It's my body makeup.
Geragos wouldn't greet his paralegals that way. He wouldn't do that. Hey, welcome to the firm. Come here.
I'm going to start doing that at MK True Crime.
Right. Thank you, Megyn.
She says, I'm probably getting my spray tan on you. He says, it smells good. I mean, like the complaint, right? He slowly dragged his lips from her ear down to her neck as he said, it smells so good. She is a damn liar, Geragos.
I just don't understand how this is even a, I often will use the term, the majesty of federal court. How is this a federal court case?
I'll tell you how she could have a better case. If what she alleges with the tongue going down the neck happened when he went into her trailer as she's breastfeeding her baby, that would be strong.
Totally agree.
Right?
I'm with you.
Yes.
You and I.
Now we're all ears.
We found common ground. Yes.
Yes, we look forward to that change of her testimony on the stand. Right. So I think the judge is probably going to deny the motion for summary judgment by Baldoni based on how he sounded in court yesterday, even though I accept your representation, Geragos, that he sounds like he wants nothing more to do with this case. So I think, and most of these motions for summary judgment get denied unless it's just like a clear-cut agreement on the facts, and there isn't here. So I think it will proceed, and I don't know whether it actually gets tried. Actually, Geragos, let me ask you that since you actually are a little closer to the defense counsel and their day-to-day handling of this. It sounds to me like neither side is in any mindset to try to settle without a trial.
Right. I don't think it's going to settle. I really don't. I think if the judge does not stick a fork in this goes to trial. And can you imagine? I was told about the scene at the courthouse yesterday. I can't even imagine. Talk about this may be the case that finally breaks the logjam against televised trials in federal court.
This needs to settle. It needs to be done. They're both getting bloodied before we even pick a jury. This is horrible for both of them.
Both of their careers have stalled. And, there's lots of text messages by her saying his is going to stall. It's stalling, baby. Like, you watch. But hers has stalled too. And this really has become a Johnny Depp, Amber Heard situation where he's got just as many, if not more supporters. I think more supporters than she does. She's been made to look very foolish by her own texts, which and her allegations, which don't match up with the videotape, Geragos.
And she's drawn in Taylor Swift in this too. I mean, Taylor Swift is basically immune from any kind of downside, I suppose, just because of her stature. But this certainly does not reflect well on her. And
how about her calling him a bitch?
Well, they reportedly broke up.
Taylor Swift called him a bitch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, called Baldoni a bitch.
Wow.
I mean, of course, Taylor was only getting one side of the story.
Right.
But Taylor and Blake have reportedly broken up their friendship as a result of all of this. She got to see Blake's texts behind the scenes, and she didn't much appreciate, I'm sure, being called one of Blake's dragons. It's like, you're my dragon, bitch. Right? Like, what the power imbalance there is not with Taylor as the subservient. Anyway, it's not going well. I think Blake would like to have that back. And I'll tell you what I think happened here. I think she took such crap in the press for being tone deaf on promoting a movie about domestic violence with her hair care product and their liquor that they pushed and all of her weird stuff with the flowers and the floral stuff. And she bullied that reporter, and she's bullied a couple of others too. It was not a one-time gig. That she sensed an opportunity, much like Melissa Gilbert, to try to make herself look like the super caring, empathetic one who understood Me Too claims, and understood women, even though she'd been totally tone deaf to them in promoting the DV film. And so she was like, not only do I understand the Me Too world, I am of the Me Too world. And she carried this on at the Time 100, where I saw her last year. She was one and I was one, hence my comment that not everybody there was a Time 100 most powerful person. Nor was I one of the people. Let's be honest. It's all made up. It's fucking advertising, whatever. Okay, I digress. So at the Time 100, did she get up there and talk about something like truly powerful, like about her film company, all of her business? No, she talked about her mother's alleged Me Too story. It was Me Too, like stolen honor by Blake Lively. She's dying, stolen valor. She's trying desperately to be accepted as like a champion of women because that's the exact lane in which she took the hit. So this whole thing has gotten used against poor Justin Baldoni for saying things like, you look hot. It's just so wrong. And I think ultimately a jury is going to see it Baldoni's way. Does anybody disagree with that this is likely to go his way?
Not here, but
probably not. But it doesn't mean he's poor Baldoni and didn't have dirt on his hands and didn't do certain things that were disturbing. I just don't know that she can prove it or it rises to the level of her burden. I don't know that she's going to meet it. Yeah.
And then look, the other thing is, Geragos, you watched her Depp trial. I mean, there is no, Amber Heard's career is over. Mm-hmm. It's over now. Does Blake Lively really think she's going to come out the other side of a Brian Friedman cross-examination at trial?
Hell no.
Better off than she is right now?
No, there's no way. I'm here. I've been there. I've seen it, and it's like a kamikaze mission for her. I don't understand what she.
Yeah.
I think we all agree on that.
She should get out of this. Yeah, she should.
Enough.
Whatever she thinks about her legal claims, she should get out of this because it doesn't get better for her at trial at all. Even if she wins, and
by the way,
that cross-examination is going to be the end of her.
By the way, if it's not televised so that people get it unfiltered, there's no way to win. I mean, one of the things that was brilliant in some ways about Depp Heard was at least it was televised so you could see and you had that kind of unspoken or unarticulated ability to sway public opinion. You can't do that when it's
they'll take the worst of the worst things that she says, and then everybody gets a bastardized version of what they think took place. You're not going to get justice here. She needs to take her losses and run,
I will do the dramatic reenactment every day at the end of.
You definitely bring it with the weirdest accent ever. I don't know. What was that?
I might do it in the voice of Patti LuPone with her hard consonants. We shall see. Gentlemen, a pleasure.
Same here. Thanks,
you guys,
Megyn.
for everything.
Take care, Mark. Be well.
All right. Have a great weekend. Oh my God, aren't they great? And you can check them out on MK True Crime. Go ahead and subscribe now. Go to podcast, type in MK True Crime, and enjoy the whole gang. They're the best on legal stuff. Have a great weekend. God love you. We'll see you Monday.